So one of the things that's just sort of stunning, and I think there was a piece of news overnight, the head of Autopilot left, is the accelerating rate of executive departures. And one of the things that I've learned in my zillion years of selling short is that probably the number one sign of impending problems is mass executive departures. I don't mean one or two people. I mean 30 or 40.
You're talking about rats leaving a sinking ship.
Well, I'll let you say that, not me, but yes. I mean, this is becoming a torrent at Tesla. And we keep this sort of list that is somewhat well known, the Tesla executive departure list. And it's now 2 pages, single space for the last 18 months.
But look, for a very, very long time, investors have given Elon Musk license to effectively lose money as he tries to build market share, right? That's been the model, if you will.
Right.
I think actually investors understood that was what the deal was. They might have expected certain things to happen sooner than they did.
Right.
They've clearly had lots of production problems
Right.
along the way. You've gotten caught up in this, obviously, because I think you thought this was going to fall much sooner than it has.
Well, Tesla's actually been an okay short relative to this market. I mean, it's gone nowhere in 4 years.
Hey, break this up. How long have you been short Tesla?
So we've been short it 4 years.
Yeah.
So this stock, as the market has kept moving higher, was in the high 200s in 2014. It's been volatile, but it really hasn't made any progress. So that's one interesting little observation. Number two, when we started shorting Tesla, the 2020 earnings estimate was $20 a share. It's now down to about $4 or $5 a share. So the problem is that this has been pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. But the bigger problem is that Porsche's coming.
How expensive? Sorry.
Let's say that again. You think
Porsche's coming.
With their own car.
Porsche's coming with the Mission E, and
so is Jaguar with the I-Pace.
And so is Audi with the e-tron. And these are amazing looking cars. And what Tesla did was made EVs sexy. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that. Elon got the Model S out.
Electric vehicles.
Right, electric vehicles. But the Model S is 7 years old. And now the big boys are coming. And they're coming with sexy looking cars at the same price point with better features, faster cars, great styling. And so what was unique for Tesla is no longer unique.
Okay, but then the question is, when does the market decide they're no longer going to provide capital under this business model, which is we provide you capital for this long-term thing that we think is going to happen? When does that? What's the tipping point?
I have no idea. It should. At some point, investors are going to see the capital as being incinerated, right? I mean, they're just providing capital, and he has to come back to market, and they're providing capital, and it's gone. At some point.
And you don't think there's any point where you look and is there anything encouraging where you've said, you know what, maybe they're getting finally closer to a turning point here?
I think actually it's getting worse. They talked about being a leader in autopilot. They're now a laggard in autopilot. Their technology is behind everybody else's. They're selling.
Behind who?
They're behind GM, for example, who's going to be on the show shortly. We can talk to GM about that. The cruise technology is well ahead of Tesla's, and they're behind Audi and VW, and they're behind Waymo.
But
so
what's the cost of carry though when you're shorting, the cost of borrow? I mean, is it extreme on Tesla from a short perspective?
Right, as you know, for most short positions, you earn income.
Okay.
And Tesla, it's now down to -1 or 2%.
Okay, so it's not egregious.
No.
There's
almost 80 million fully diluted shares here.
When we look at also the ownership, Elon Musk, as Andrew said, this is kind of odd only because this is kind of a cult company where it's got this larger than life leader. In your history, when you look at your shorts, Jim, you think, okay, these are sort of fundamentally bad accounting stories or there's something funny going on. Is there a headline risk for you in that you've got this sort of cult of personality behind the company, which he could try to pull a rabbit out of a hat at any time?
Well, of course. But again, the only two companies I've ever seen in our history with an executive departure list like this was more recently a company called Valiant Pharmaceuticals, and then a company in Houston called Enron.
Okay. But do you think? Okay. So you just raised.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish. And so both of those were led by cult-like leaders who had changed the paradigm in their industries. Valiant in pharmaceuticals, Enron in energy, right?
But let's be careful here because both of those companies ultimately, there was another word involved, which was fraud.
Yeah.
Do you look at Tesla and believe it's a fraud?
I think that Mr. Musk has crossed the Rubicon in terms of making statements to investors that he might rue later.
Like what?
Well, for example, he made a rollout last year of the Semi and the Roadster. He said the Roadster would be available in 2020 and the Semi will be entering production next year. I don't think either of those are going to happen. There was a lawsuit filed recently, which actually took testimony from 11 former executives who said in the lawsuit complaint, you can find it, that they all told Elon that there was no way they were going to make the production numbers on the Model 3. They told him this, and he went out and made public statements. These are kind of big things.
I thought that's kind of what his MO has been all along,
But
right? To do things that people say are impossible.
You only get to do that in a bull market, Becky. When the stock starts going down, people actually sue you.
That might be a violation of Reg FD if true, but it's not the F word. It's not
Right,
fraud.
it's not fraud.
You didn't say fraud.
I didn't say fraud. I said you may be making material misstatements and maybe misleading investors. Remember, when he does these things, he raises money. Mm-hmm. He raises deposits. And you cannot raise money.
But you're not, just to be clear, you're not taking issue with the actual numbers that you're receiving on a quarterly basis that investors actually can see.
Well, there are some problems. I mean, for example, the way they report gross margins. They report gross margins in a way that no other auto OEM does. Every other auto manufacturer includes R&D expense and certain other things like service costs and warranty costs in their gross margin. Tesla does not. So it inflates Tesla's gross margins by as much as 10 full points. So when Tesla says our target gross margin is 25%, it's really on an apples to apples with every other auto OEM.
They don't have the traditional dealer or service network, though.
Right.
Right.
Which is a problem.
So you can't make the apples to apples comparison with other car.
Of course you can. R&D is still the same at R&D, right? And warranty expense is still the same. So there is, and they have to provide a supercharger network which others don't, right? So
how does that work with accounting rules? Are there accounting rules that would dictate that one way or the other, or?
There's latitude, but again, industry standard is that everybody generally does it the way that I indicated, and Tesla doesn't. So it means their SG&A and operating expenses are higher than everybody else's, but they keep pointing people to the gross margin as some holy grail. Now, having said that, their gross margin is somewhere around 15%, as reported.
Right.
So it's lower. Anyway.
Now, you have a theory, by the way, which is the theory is you think that Elon Musk is going to leave the company.
I do. I think he's going to actually leave as CEO. I think he's going to move over to SpaceX. And I think that if you read his compensation package that was approved by the shareholders, it specifically said he keeps the compensation package if he remains as non-executive chairman and someone else becomes CEO.
He has to be, though, I believe, the chief product officer. So it'd be very hard to.
Well, he better be because everybody else is leaving, Andrew.
No, but don't you think it would be very hard for him to leave the company?
I think that it'll be very easy for him to stay non-executive chairman and chief product officer. But I think his desire is really to go over to SpaceX from everything I've seen. You saw the Rolling Stone interview with him in November. All the glossy pictures were at SpaceX, not Tesla. And besides, Mars doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.